Welcome to the Gruber Morning Show. This is the Tesla Roadster edition of our morning show. I'm Pete Gruber.
I'm Mark Schaffner. Good morning and welcome, everybody.
So the image behind us, for once, is not AI generated. This is real. This is our EV Preserve building, where we store collectible roadsters or roadsters that people want us to store for them. And eventually there will be lifts. It'll be at least 2 levels, possibly 3. And we'll talk about what's in the building, how we store them, some of the issues like temperature control and all of that, and a portion later here in this podcast. But we wanted to start this podcast with a description of our the Roadster registry and the reason it exists and what prompted it. Most people don't realize. In a nutshell, we allow owners to register their roadsters.
Yeah.
I'm talking brakes now, and that is then posted on our website. So at any point in time, you can see how many roadsters are on the planet, where they are, colors, disposition, all of that. The fundamental reason that we did that was 3-4 years ago, no one was really sure how many roadsters were left. There was a lot of discussion, conjecture, guessing and all of that. But what made us decide to create the registry was we realized that not even Tesla knew exactly how many roadsters were left.
Well, and if I remember correctly, wasn't this partly the conversation around the battery pack? The first 3.0 battery pack had been discontinued.
Mm-hmm.
And there was the rumor that Tesla was just not going to bother with another battery pack because there weren't really any Roadster owners left out there anyway.
And if you remember, it was during that period that the Roadster valuation really plummeted. I mean, we're talking about functioning cars being sold on eBay for $40,000.
Yeah, and I remember we got one that was, I think it had been in an accident, so I think we got it at auction, but it was a repairable car. It wasn't like it had been, it may have been totaled, but it was very repairable. And we got it for $12,000.
Yeah, yeah. It was during the dark days of Roadster, and then at one point Tesla decided, well, let's do a better job creating the 3.0 battery pack. And around 2020, 2021, they began to make the pack again, and now things began to improve. Valuation began to climb again because people realized this wasn't going to be garage furniture. It was not going to be a boat anchor. They were going to be able to continue to drive their cars.
But wasn't part of that decision, or we think part of that decision, driven by the fact that we had put together a census program and told Tesla how many people really are out there?
Yeah, I never got confirmation because it would be difficult for Tesla to say, we really didn't know how many were out there. Thanks for the information you supplied. Now we're sure, and we're going to continue production of the parts or the pack, the Roadster pack. But yes, so that was the fundamental reason we thought the registry is important. We all need to know how many cars are left and how many owners are going to look to Tesla for continued support, especially parts support. And by the way, even 4 or 5 years ago, there were a number of people that were talking about making a replacement battery pack. And today there are still people talking about that, but no one today yet has a scalable option that you can purchase and actually have installed in your car.
That's right. The closest that we've seen is Marco Nolte. I believe he has a pack that he has in testing, but it's just for him himself. He hasn't figured out how to scale it yet. And we don't know when or if he'll ever figure out how to get it produced and scale.
I think all of the people that are trying to make battery packs are optimistic about their ability to scale and to address the market. And there's let's see, Evmix Nielsen, Chris Rosa, Marco Nolte, Resell in Texas. But if you talk to any one of them and say, I want that pack and I want it now and I want it to go in my car, what are my options? You're not going to get what you think you want.
Yeah, every one of them is going to come back and say, well, we don't have an exact time frame as to when we can get you your pack in your car and get your car back to you.
No, that doesn't mean that it's not going to happen ever. These guys are eventually going to figure out what to do. But in the meantime, Tesla is our main go-to for this battery pack. So that was one of the primary reasons that we created the registry, was to alert Tesla to the fact how many people are out there. And we went a step further. We said to Tesla, would you like us to share our information with you regarding who is looking for a battery pack? And they acknowledged affirmatively, yes, that would help us.
Mm-hmm.
So we began to collect a queue system for who needs a battery pack, and we share that with Tesla every month. So that has been very successful. Prior to that time, it was hit and miss. Somebody waiting 2 years might still be waiting, and somebody that just came along 3 months ago got a battery pack. What was needed was a queue system that
Yes.
would service this correctly. So with the number of Tesla Roadsters now globally identified, and by the way, the registry is not 100% accurate. It's got a 10 to 15% margin for error. And the reason is, when someone sells a car, they sell a Roadster, it may then pop up on our system again, but the original owner is still out in the registry.
Right.
And we do our best to clean that up every time we get information from the new owners or the old owners, but it's not 100%. So you may see some duplicates. But let me give you some interesting statistics, and I just ran those a couple days ago. The current accounted for Roadsters with VINs is 1,659. Remember, there were 2412 built.
Mm-hmm.
But the accounted for now without VINs, and those are the owners that were waiting to contact us or enter their car in the registry, is 592. You combine those two, and we've got over 2,000 cars left.
Yeah, that's close to 2,250 of those out of 2412. So we only have about 100 to 150 cars to go, and we will have captured every VIN. And notably, the ones that have been lost through crash, through fire, through theft that's not recoverable, we have a lot of those in there as well.
And of course, you have to factor in the fact, yes, there have been 2 fires here. We've lost 27 Roadsters. Tesla had a buyback program and still kind of plays with it, but not as aggressive as they used to be. But we estimate that there are almost 100 cars that were purchased that had been parted out.
Right.
So we think that the registry is getting more and more accurate as it goes. And again, if you're watching and you haven't registered your car, there's a link on our website. There's a little icon there. Jesse, if you can bring up this icon called Registry-2, or just Registry. There we go. That's the icon on our website that just below it says Roadster Registry. If you click on that, it will take you to a submission form. And then it asks you some basic questions about your Roadster, and that way it can get entered into the registry.
Now, there's no personally identifiable information that gets added to the registry.
No, yeah. The information on the registry is going to be location, color, year, the type of battery. Is it bricked or is it unbricked? But yeah, no personal information is ever shared or is ever offered on that registry. So you're safe. All right. So the reason for this again was it allows Tesla to do order and production planning, forecast raw material requirements, and then make some labor resource projections. These 3.0 battery packs are built at the Reman Center, Lathrop, California, and they are continuing to hand assemble them. Some people complain about the price. Question: why can I buy a $22,000 brand new battery pack for my Model S, but the Roadster pack now is $40,000? The difference is one is hand assembled. You've got 6,831 cells that have 2 bonding wires or fusible links that need to be welded by hand. It's an ultrasonic weld process. And it's just very labor intensive. And we're not talking about reasonable labor costs. We're talking about Silicon Valley labor, where you can pretty much double, the labor costs anywhere else in the U.S. And then you have lease costs, that are also infinitely higher than most areas of the United States. All that goes into the cost of this product. It's $40,000 in the United States plus tax, which typically runs about another $5,000.
Mhm.
So the features are, if you go to the registry, you can see the total number of cars. You can see how many colors. Let's say you have a lightning green. You want to see how many other lightning greens are there and where are they. There's search fields there, and you just simply type in whatever parameter you're looking for. What we're working on, and we just discussed it again, is a pin map. It's not
Yeah.
that hard to do, but we haven't figured out how to yet because of the variations between zip and country and locations. But pretty soon we're going to have a pin map for you, and you'll be able to see the global disbursement of roadsters. How many are left? Where are they?
That's going to be a really fascinating to see. It shouldn't be too hard to accomplish. And I'm certain that some of the things that you see in the census program have made their way into Roadster listing.
Mm-hmm.
How many people have lightning green roadsters? How many people cared about how many people had lightning green roadsters until they became collectible and you found out that there's only about a dozen of them left?
Right. And by the way, the census program lists both active cars that are still in circulation or even bricked, and then it lists the cars that are no longer with us, either collision damage, fire damage, parted out by Tesla, and that's the second half of the census or the this registry on our website. So again, the success of this program is reliant on the owners participating. So send us your information. Again, there's a click field on the Roadster Registry site, and Jesse actually has a hand up there showing where that is. And the blue button, there you go. You fill that out, and we will update your car, or we will enter your car. All right, we've got another image here for you guys. This one is the Jig, and it is called, it's in a folder, Jesse, called ESS Jig. We received a battery from an island in the Atlantic, and usually when we do battery work, the cars come with a battery. And it's rare for us to receive just the ESS pack. In this case, a PEM and ESS pack came. It's not impossible for us to repair, to work on it, but it certainly represents some additional challenges. One of the first was we used to have straps that we would take these things out of the crate and then put them onto the battery gurney, which is in the next, or which is image number 3, Jesse. That allows us to move the battery pack around and take the front covers off and do the various testing that we do, remove sheets. There's a lot of special equipment that we have that facilitate that. But in order to get it onto that battery gurney, we usually use straps, which isn't as safe as what we ended up building. And we now have a couple of pieces of steel that actually allow a forklift to come up, slide between those spaces, and then cleanly and safely set that onto that battery gurney.
Oh, that's what that jig is for. Okay.
So again, the point here is in those rare cases where someone wants to ship us the battery and a PEM, we have tools that we can take those off with. PEMs more commonly come in, and that's for rebuild. Remember, your PEM, some of them are they're going on 16 years old now. You've got engineering problems inside. You've got decaying material like the transistor IGBT insulating material. You've got 21 electrolytic capacitors that are 8 years beyond their service life. And when any of that fails, it can take out boards. And that's what you want to avoid, because none of these boards are in production anymore and most likely never will be.
Right. And one of the reasons that we really, especially with the batteries, like to have the car and not just the battery is that the battery gets bricked for a reason. And the reason that the battery gets bricked does not always
it's not always in the battery.
Yeah,
Yes,
it's not always in the battery. Thank
Right.
you. That's what I'm trying to say. The reason the battery gets bricked is sometimes an issue in the car itself. And it can be something as simple as You've had rodents that have decided to set up housekeeping.
Mhm.
Um, there, but that's there are a myriad of issues, and many of the reasons that a battery gets bricked have nothing to do with the battery itself.
Yeah, the PEM, for example, is where the charging systems are. Well,
Hmm.
there's a reason that that didn't get charged. Now, we do a thorough enough analysis up front through things like log files to determine precisely what the root cause is. And sometimes it's as simple as, but very costly, as the yellow charge cable plug went out while you were on vacation.
Yes.
Just we've got another one of those coming in, actually two of them right now.
Oh, two more
with
now.
with that problem. We then recommend send us that yellow charge cable as well. We'll rebuild it and we'll future proof it so this doesn't happen again.
Right.
So the next item that I have for you here is those three cars in the back. I'm going to try to point to them. There we go. See those three? Those are not Roadsters. They may look a bit like Roadsters because of the colors. Those are three-wheelers. That is part of a solo project that we're working on. And we were selected to do reverse engineering on the Solo G3 cars, the third generation cars, which the majority of which were crushed, over 1,000 of them. There are about 41 left in existence at this point. And it's a long story. We'll have a video eventually that will explain all this. But the reason that they were crushed is NHTSA gave the company a certain amount of time to resolve a power loss problem. You're driving along and suddenly the car goes dead. Well, NHTSA has time periods on this sort of activity, and apparently the problem was not isolated in time. So then the investors bailed, and they decided the safest recovery here for them was to crush the cars to retrieve the tariffs that had been placed on the cars. What we've been contracted to do is to do a deep dive and figure out precisely what happened and why this occurred. We're going to be doing data logging. We're going to figure out exactly why these cars had a loss of power. And the reason it's important is the 1,000 or so cars that were made are now crushed. They're gone forever. There are only 41 left. But there's a next generation, a G4, which is in production in Spain currently. And what they want us to do is to figure out what happened the first time so as to not replicate this the second time.
Well, and I know we're not free to really disclose many details, but just an initial analysis by our engineers has uncovered things that the prior team did not know to look at or did not look at. So we even, because of the experience we have on the Roadsters, we even have an idea of where we want to look first.
Right. And, the reason they came to us is this is exactly the type of work we had to do with Tesla Roadsters in order to decrypt the electronics and the software in the Roadster. At the time that we first started, Tesla saw us as an arch rival competitor. They weren't in partnership with us like they are now.
Right.
And in order to work on these cars, we did what we did in Critical Power for over 30 years at that time, which was reverse engineer their product, build our own schematics, our own test equipment. And we did that with the Tesla Roadster. So they realized we had gone through that process twice now in Critical Power and with the Roadster. And that's why we were selected to do a deep dive and figure out what's going on with these cars.
I know in computer programming, even the brightest programmer will sometimes take stuff to his team, knowing that his team knows nothing about what he or she is working on, and they call it's a fresh set of eyes.
Yeah.
They'll say, "Hey, I'm having a problem. My program," and they'll sometimes they will purposely leave the problem kind of vague because they want that fresh set of eyes and say, I'm having a problem. I'm not sure exactly what it is. Here's what I'm supposed to get to, and I don't know why."
Right.
And then that fresh set of eyes comes in and they disassemble and they reverse engineer everything that's been done. That's what we're going to do here, just on a hardware basis.
Good point. All right. So here's another interesting headline in the Roadster world. Another Chinese Roadster is for sale, VIN number 1208. And according to the owner, this is the last Roadster in China. So here's the backstory on this. This car got bricked in China And of course, there weren't any service options, so the car is now hard bricked. It is on our Roadster matchmaking site. It is a Fusion Red Roadster, lots of carbon fiber overload almost, even the spoiler.
Pete, can you pull your mic up a little bit, please?
Sure. And there's an asking price which is fairly high, but we are now offering this as a brick Roadster out on the matchmaking site. So any of you interested in another Chinese Roadster, this is now available.
Now we have a picture of this Roadster too, don't we?
We do, I believe we do. Let's take a look here.
That's the other thing. You have 3 of them out there that are in the wrong format. Mark, if you see those ones.
Is VIN 1208 okay?
There's no VIN 1208. There's one that's a long string of numbers. I don't know if that's it.
VIN 1208 is a JPEG file, JPEG, not JPG. Is that something you can work with?
Oh, yeah, I see that one. One sec.
Okay. And here's a picture of this Chinese Roadster. We thought it was interesting because we had just gotten done with the 3 or 3.5 Chinese Roadsters. And here's another one. So this is for sale in China. It's available as a brick car and ready for transport anywhere in the world. All right. Now, we had a customer that chimed in that has been looking at the Founders cars that we have. In fact, they're right in between Mark and myself. The one near me is Roadster Founders VIN number 3. The one next to Mark is Model S Founders number 3. These are being sold as a set. They are, the current owners are collecting offers for these. And we all know that it's a tough market for Roadsters right now. But we had someone interested, and they asked, is this a good time to buy? Here's how I responded. The Roadster market has reached an all-time low due to too many cars for sale, for now. Investors are active, strategically buying bargains at this point. 2 recent examples on Bring a Trailer. We had 2 Signature 100 cars, both of them fully functional. One had just had almost $30,000 in deferred maintenance resolved. And they sold for $70,000 and $78,000. These are Signature 100 cars. They would have sold for twice that in a normal market.
Right.
So it's not a great time to sell. It's an excellent time to buy. So the question was, are these Founders cars the real thing? Well, they are. Well documented with even a video handoff for the Model S from Elon to the customer. So what I recommended was you can come by any time to see them and even test drive them. Our new EV exotic car storage facility, which is adjacent to Gruber Motors at 203 West Lone Cactus in Phoenix. We are also within walking distance of Deer Valley Airport. So if you choose to fly in, we can pick you up or you can walk over and see the cars. And then we gave this interested party the contact information, which, by the way, is how our Roadster matchmaking site works. We provide some tech support, advice if the customer is looking for that. But the goal is to unite them with the seller, and they start their negotiation and their conversation. We oftentimes come in after the fact. Sometimes customers want to use our free escrow service, which is available.
Yep.
And advice on how to transport the vehicles. We subscribe to Central Dispatch. We have thousands of transporters available. So anyone interested in some really highly collectible cars, these are Founders cars, Founders number 3, both Model S and the Roadster, and they have enormous amounts of provenance. One of them on the Model S is panel gaps. And yeah, it could be fixed.
Right.
But why? This was sold that way. Owners were being told back then, this is the best we can do. It's part of its provenance.
It really is. I remember us talking to Jameson Cummings.
Yes.
I believe it was. And we were talking about some older cars like this. And he said that the molds that were made for steel.
Right.
And Tesla did not have enough corporate knowledge yet to understand that aluminum has more spring back than steel. So you have some of these panel gaps that they figured it out, but they didn't figure it out for this car.
You know, he was standing by the car. He was, I think, employee just under 200 or something like that. And I said, "You were there during the day. What's with these panel gaps?" And that's when he explained what had
Yes.
happened. And of course, there was now a repurchase of the correct stamping equipment to stamp aluminum rather than steel. Even the Roadster has a bit of flaw provenance, is what I'd like to call it. On the hood vanes on the front, on one of them, you can see the carbon fiber weave showing through. So again,
interesting.
we recommended to the sellers, leave it as is. If the new owner wants to make it perfect and take that provenance away, that's their choice.
Yeah, you call it provenance. I call it personality. The cars have their own personality here.
Yep. So here's another interesting article I came across, which kind of ties into Tesla Roadsters, and this is regarding the origins of Lotus. Got an image we can pop up here, Jesse. It is well, let's see, maybe not. All right, never mind. On the image, I was going to show you a Lotus Evija, but here's some key facts about Lotus cars. All right, Lotus cars were founded in 1952. That was a year after I was born, by Colin Chapman in the UK, known for lightweight sports cars and engineering innovation. And everything I'm about to describe to you here is inherent in the Tesla Roadster. Lightweight sports car, light suspension components. The Lotus Elise now, which is what the Roadster is based on, was introduced in 1996, and it was a popular model known for its agility. It was also the model that Martin Eberhard and Mark chose as a chassis for the Tesla Roadster. The Lotus Evora came after with a mid-range sports or with a V6 engine, and then during the duration of the Lotus manufacturing process since 1952, they have a strong racing heritage, including Formula One. Then came the Lotus Exige, which is a track-focused variant of the Elise. Eventually, Lotus was acquired by Geely in 2017, which is a Chinese automotive company. And the Lotus Eletre is an all-electric SUV that was launched in 2022. We also have the soon-to-be released, hopefully, the Lotus Evija, which is over $2 million. It's a 100% electric car as well, and it has holes in the side for certain aerodynamics.
Yeah, in addition to the picture that Jesse just had, I've put a supercars JPEG picture out there that Jesse could bring up.
And if you, the very top one is the Lotus Evija. The specs on this are a little misleading. It is actually a 2-second 0 to 60 car. And as you can see, it's almost 2,000 horsepower with a composite body. I would venture to say that this may be even faster if you get the right tires on it. However, unlike the Tesla Roadster, this is a $2.1 million car. 3,700 pounds, okay. So, those are some facts about Lotus and the company's history and achievements. The company also has a history of producing components for other car manufacturers. And again, it's all about lightweight design. All right. So now getting back to this image, this is our EV Preserve building. And this is the intent of creating this was to create a dedicated electric vehicle storage facility, exotic car storage facility for EVs, and predominantly roadsters at this point, and maybe forever if the values start coming back up.
Right.
They continue on their collectible trajectory. And the convenience there is they are right next to the largest independent Tesla service organization in the world, focusing and specializing on Tesla Roadsters. So if anything is wrong with your car, we just simply push it over to GMC and it can get worked on if it's being stored here. The advantage of storing with us is, unlike the other exotic car storage facilities who don't really understand EVs and oftentimes brick them. How many Roadsters have we received from other storage facilities that have been bricked as a result of an improper charging protocol?
I don't have much to do with Gruber Motors on a day-to-day basis, and off the top of my head, I know of at least 3.
Mm-hmm. It's actually more than that, and it
I'm
would
sure
probably
it
be shocking
is.
if we reveal that number. In this facility, there will never be a bricked Roadster as a result of our activities. There are a number of safeguards that we have built into this. We have an engineer that comes over at least twice a week with laptops going into each car's VMS, determining the state and condition of the car. There are OVMS boxes in the cars that give us telemetry about what's going on with the car and the customer on their cell phone.
Mm-hmm.
So they can see what the ambient temperature that their car is being stored in is, what the state of charge is, how often it's being charged. We have 24/7 security in this building. It is temperature controlled. Remember, we're in Phoenix, Arizona, so you wouldn't want an unconditioned warehouse. This is maintained with 20 tons of air conditioning at a level that the cars enjoy and are expecting. So that's the advantages of storing your Roadster with Gruber Motor Company or EV Preserve. The final one, if you've decided to sell your car, sometimes customers ship their cars here. They then decide, you know what, I want to sell my car. Well, there are a number of advantages now. We have the Roadster matchmaking site. We take the pictures of your car for free. We store your car. We give tours almost daily here on average. And some of those people that are touring are interested in buying a Roadster.
Mm-hmm.
If you've given permission and they can test drive your car, that helps sell the car. So your car gets visibility if it's for sale. So those are some of the reasons for storing with EV Preserve. Anyway, this is operational and it will continue to evolve. So another item I have for you. We have a lot of part successes that continue to get better and better with Tesla. For example, we have a number of these in inventory. These are the side marker lights that go on a Tesla Roadster. There's an amber and there's a red one. And we are fully stocked on these now. These are in great demand as well. These are the mud flaps. This is the rear right-hand Roadster mud flap. We have a full complement of these in stock. Brand new, by the way. What we find is that as we continue to source and source and source, we eventually find the product. Or we find the vendor that originally made them. And we find either new out of stock or we buy used as well and then recondition. Everything I'm showing you here is brand new, by the way. The thing that I didn't bring with me was the little coolant bottle. That took us years to find.
Right.
And we have a dozen of those in stock currently. And those won't last forever. Those are a hard plastic. And eventually that nipple's going to break off, or it's going to crack, or it's going to in some way deteriorate.
Mm-hmm.
And we have a full complement of that in stock. Here's the latest find, and this is really cool. This is the charge port light ring assembly. And if you remember, these deteriorate. Roadsters are not waterproof. Do not leave them out in the rain overnight. What happens is the water pools into this connector housing, and as it does, it then begins to corrode, and because there's a constant voltage source that is hitting this connector. So you get electrolysis. And eventually your charge port light ring either gives the wrong colors, some colors are missing, or no colors at all. We are good at rebuilding these and reconditioning them and waterproofing them. But most recently, we bought a dozen brand new ones, new out of stock, that are now available. So if you're doing a Roadster restoration and you have to have brand new, we have a dozen of these in stock currently and with more available. So another thing that I don't have with me here, they're big. We have 6 sets of new out-of-stock headlights for the Roadster. We also recondition those. We rebuild those. We open them up. We convert them to HID and to LED now. We resurface the flaking that's on them, but we now have brand new ones. So again, if you're doing a number 1 concourse restoration, we've got brand new product that you can put in that car now.
That's impressive.
So that's I have all the parts here that we were going to show.
Yeah, and we'll take, if, for example, if somebody wanted to buy a new light ring, we're obviously not going to throw away the old light ring.
Exactly.
We'll refurbish it. We'll put it back into stock again so that they'll live on.
Mm-hmm. Core exchange is vital. And we encourage the Tesla service centers continuously to make sure that you collect the cores, because that's the only way we're going to keep some of these parts alive.
Yes.
One final thing, we sent tech tips, and I sent to most of the Roadster owners a copy of the latest tech tip that went to all of the Tesla service centers around the globe. And what we typically do with the tech tips is we enlighten them as to what kind of age-related problems we're finding. Remember, we work on a dozen Roadsters every single day, and which is much more than what the service centers are seeing. And as we find problems, and we do the deep dive, we don't just simply change components. We do deep dive. We can establish trends. We then share that with Tesla to let them know what kinds of things to expect. And this was one based on what to do when your Roadster gets bricked, or if you have a customer that brings one in and it is bricking or already bricked. There's some vital steps to make sure that that battery pack can be repaired and recovered versus the $45,000 battery pack replacement. All right, I think that brings us to a close on this podcast.
I think so. Look forward to another good podcast this next week. We've had a good day today.
Oh, we've got some questions here. Should we?
Yeah, let's go through a few of these.
Yeah.
Highlander has given us a couple comments throughout the course of our podcast. And so first, thanks as always for joining us, Highlander. He's one of our regulars. He says, thank you for all the free services that Gruber Companies provides to the community.
Well, you're more than welcome.
And then on YouTube, Highlander has also said, I think you mentioned before, the leaves, dirt, and other road debris, that all becomes a big issue with the Roadsters when we were talking about the PEM and battery problems. And yes, that becomes one of those.
Highlander, thank you for mentioning that. Just yesterday, actually, we had a call from a customer in New Jersey. And he said, I'm driving my car. It's 70 degrees outside, and that motor's running 1 bar from the far right. And so we talked about what he's done lately, when was his last annual, that type of thing. He was one of the customers that had a bunch of leaves, twigs buried in his motor heatsink.
Oh.
And it's vital that during an annual preventive maintenance gets cleared, gets flushed out.
Yes.
So we're suspecting that has clogged up again, and it needs to have a more thorough annual PM, which, by the way, was also one of the tech tips that we sent to Tesla about 6 months ago or so. Here's what we're finding in Roadsters. It's not just the PEM heat sinks that get clogged up, but look at the motor when we take those apart. So thanks for reminding me, Highlander. And his favorite motto is, kindness is always free. Thank you.
Finally, Highlander says, the folks that I know who have Roadsters in Michigan and Ohio always say the same thing. They say, we go to Pete Gruber for our parts.
Well, there are other sources, but yes, we definitely have a great inventory of Roadster parts and the ability to rebuild. Well, we'll be back next week for another edition of the Tesla Roadster podcast. I'm Pete Gruber.
I'm Mark Schaffner. Thank you for joining us.